Hello, everybody. Yeah, I know, right? Yeah, there we go. Yeah. What a look at this great group. So good, so nice to see. I'm David Leonard, Executive Director of Writers' Trust of Canada. Welcome to the 2025 Writers' Trust Awards. So, I want to begin just by acknowledging the land on which we gather. It's the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee, the Huron-Wendat, Anishinaabe, and the Mississaugas of the Credit. We hear this a lot, and I think it's important just to reflect on that a bit. These groups had treaties with each other that governed their relations, and then Europeans came and they made new treaties, and maybe those treaties weren't always upheld, let's say. And they fell out of those right relations. And I think it's important for us to know that story of that breaking of relation and to understand the ongoing legacy. It's still happening today, every day, all the day, yesterday, today, tomorrow. And so I think there's a chance here, this is a room of storytellers, to write a new story. And maybe we can work harder to restore those relations into rightness, as they should be. And I'll also say that these sorts of acknowledgements are nothing without action. And so everyone here living and working on these lands, if you can, share your economy with Indigenous people, that would be wonderful. We make an annual donation to the Indigenous Voices Awards. Yeah. And I also want to say thank you to you. Yes, you. This room is one of my favorite rooms of the year. Thank you. Yeah, yes, whoever that was, I love that. This is a room full of stories and people who love them, writers, publishers, agents, supporters, friends, family, media, booksellers, everyone else who I didn't mention, but also mostly readers. Everyone here is a reader. And reading is a special thing, It means you're willing to see the world through someone else's eyes, to be challenged or delighted, to learn hard facts and soft feelings, or maybe soft facts and hard feelings, or whatever it is. But this stuff is how we make sense of the world, and we're a lot more connected than we are divided, and I think it's easy to forget that in a kind of polarized world, but reading is it. This is why we do it, and so let's move forward together. Thank you for being readers. And tonight, really, though, is also about recognizing authors for their works, and also we're giving away a ton of money tonight, so that's what we're here for. So part of that, of course, is we're going to be highlighting the people who make that possible. So that's the individual, foundation, and corporate benefactors who make tonight's prizes able for the writers to receive. So on behalf of the Writers' Trust, and if you'll allow me on behalf of the Writers of Canada, I want to express our gratitude to the generous support of the prize sponsors tonight, which are the Balsillie Family Foundation, the Estate of Timothy Finley, Lorraine Gray, the Hilary and Galen Weston Foundation, Scott Griffin, Stephen and Linda Latner through the Albert and Temi Latner Family Foundation, the Metcalf Foundation, Robin Pacific, Anuja Varghese, and the Writers' Trust Prize Fund, which you'll see a bunch on the screen tonight, and you're like, what the heck is that? This is essentially our own money that we collect for things that are not specific to prizes. So this is individual donors give us money, we redistribute that to writers for prizes that maybe don't have as much funding as other prizes do. So we're committed to those prizes, and we're committed to redirecting those funds for that reason. I'd like to also acknowledge additional support for this event. The Department of Canadian Heritage supports us, our media partners, the Globe and Mail. We also have the Center for Equitable Library Access, Prime Motion Graphics, and Steam Whistle Brewing. Did you have a beer? Have a beer. Have a beer. Have a Steam Whistle. Steam Whistle. It's great beer. And so a huge thank you to all of them. They make everything possible tonight, and without them, we're nothing. And that's kind of it for me. So let me turn it over to someone who you probably want to see more than me, our MC for the evening, the host of CBC Bookends, and, of course, the winningest Canadian contestant in the history of the television show Jeopardy, your MC for this evening, Mattea Roach.
I don't know that everyone wants to see me more than David, but that's very kind. Well, welcome everyone again to the annual Writers' Trust Awards, and thank you so much for joining us to support Canadian writers and our country's literature. As David said, I'm Mattea Roach, and I'm the host of CBC's Bookends. And in that role, I'm immersed in the world of Canadian literature. I'm lucky enough to have the chance not just to read many incredible works by Canadian authors, but also to have deep conversations with those authors about their work, the world, and our place in all of that. It hasn't always been the case that I've been so tuned into Canadian literature, though. I like to think I had a robust high school literary education, and when I actually think back, though, to how many Canadian novels I read during those years, I think I can count the amount of Canadian novels I read in high school on one hand. Not good. And that wasn't because I was not reading a lot. I read plenty, lots of nonfiction, lots by American and British authors. But when I wanted to understand more about the world during that time, I had this kind of idea that it was better to look outside of Canada rather than engaging with the thinkers that we have here at home. And I'm so glad that that has changed for me. In university, I did my bachelor's degree in sexual diversity studies and political science at the University of Toronto, but I did squeeze in a couple of English literature courses. And one of those, a half-year course on queer Canadian literature, introduced me to writers like Dion Brand, Shani Mutu, and Joshua Whitehead for the first time. And those authors, among others, completely blew up any sort of dated and restricted notions of what Canadian literature could be and what it could talk about for me. It really made me kind of yearn for more. During the pandemic period, when so many of us had to find new ways to keep ourselves busy at home, I found myself taking these long and circuitous walks to my local public library to check out these giant stacks of books, the way I had last done when I was a small child, and I'm sure many folks in the audience can probably relate to that experience. And during that period, I read some of our new Canadian greats like Mona Awad, Andre Alexis, and also, weirdly, for the first time, read Margaret Atwood. Somehow that was not in the high school curriculum. It took me until 21, 22 to get there. I don't know why. And of course, in 2023, I was lucky enough to have the opportunity to appear as a panelist on Canada Reads, discussing Canadian literature across a wide variety of genres and formats: speculative fiction, horror, graphic memoir, all things that Canadians do so well. I really do believe it's essential for us as Canadians to engage with our national literature, and all of you obviously are here, you know this, you believe this. And I believe that institutions like the Writers' Trust are crucial in ensuring that as many Canadians as possible have the chance to engage with Canadian books, authors, and ideas, both by raising awareness of our contemporary great authors, but also by supporting those authors financially in their pursuit of the writing life. And we have such fantastic books and authors to celebrate tonight. We have, among other things, fiction that plays with the absurd and the irreverent to shed light on uncomfortable truths about the world, as in Julius Julius by Aurora Stewart de Pena and Simple Creatures. Yes, applause, thank you. And Simple Creatures by Robert McGill. Yeah. In both fiction and nonfiction, several of the authors we're celebrating tonight write with a deeply considered sense of ethics and moral clarity about war and armed conflict. We see this in One Day Everyone Will Always Have Been Against This by Omar Al-Akkad, and We the Kindling by Otonia Jeokot Bitek. In Endling, Maria Reva somehow manages to weave together that searing portrait of the war in Ukraine with a heavy dose of the absurd and irreverent that I mentioned before, which is like a truly deft and stunning literary accomplishment to do those two things at once. And of course, we're also celebrating several courageous works of memoir tonight by Vinh Nguyen, Tessa Watt. Yes, applause. And Miriam Taves. The Snag, A Mother of Forest and Wild Grief by Tessa McWatt braids together an exploration of love, grief, and the family with an analysis of what it means to live during a time of environmental crisis. And that's a theme shared by two other works being celebrated this evening. Tim Bowling's Graveyard Shift at the Lemonade Stand explores aging, family relationships, and the bond between humans and the natural world. And Leanne Badasamose-Simpson's work reminds us of the essential place that Indigenous ways of knowing and Indigenous writing about land and the environment hold in Canadian literature. Her book, Theory of Water, Anishinaabe Maps to the Time Ahead, examines water as a force that connects all of us and imagines new ways that we might live in relation to the natural world. And you'll hear more about these authors and these books, along with our career award winners, as well as the nominees for the Dane Ogilvy Prize for LGBTQ2S+. I am gay, I should know this acronym better. Every organization does it differently, and everyone somehow manages to mess it up anyhow. LGBTQ2S+ emerging writers as the night progresses. And while we're speaking of facts and things that are important to know, me knowing the acronym, like, come on. Some of you may know me from my appearances on Jeopardy several years ago, as David mentioned at the top, where I became the winningest Canadian contestant in the history of the program. This means in the course of my life, I'm kind of myself. I'm like, yes, I did something amazing 3 years ago. It's great. And now I get to do this, which is fantastic. But in the course of my life, I've had to learn a lot of facts, a lot of trivia, and I have some additional Writers' Trust-related trivia that I want to share with you. On March 3rd, 1976, a group of writers led by Margaret Atwood, Pierre Burton, Graham Gibson, Margaret Lawrence, and David Young established the Writers' Development Trust. In the year 2000, the newly branded Writers' Trust of Canada held its first version of this awards show. And today, this remarkable national charity gives $1 million to Canadian writers annually and invests in their future through career development programs. That's major. Tonight alone, Writers' Trust will award $360,000 to writers through 7 prizes for literary excellence. This event also, all right. Snaps for that. This event also provides something else, the intangible benefit of bringing community together to reward effort, share stories, and uplift the written word. So to our finalists, we wish you good luck and calm nerves. We are so grateful for your talents, for your books, for your thoughts. You are all here to be celebrated. And to our winning authors, you have the podium and your voices are welcome and valued. We look forward to hearing what you have to say tonight. And we begin tonight with the Latner Griffin Writers' Trust Poetry Prize, sponsored by the Albert and Temi Latner Family Foundation and Scott Griffin. So please welcome Scott Griffin to present that prize.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Writers' Trust. What a great organization it is, I have to say. It's a privilege for me to present the Latner Griffin Poetry Prize on behalf of the Writers' Trust. Now, normally, I would start with reciting a poem, but this evening I insisted that the winner of this prize this year has to read a poem. But maybe I'll recite one anyway. It may not always be so, and I say that if your lips, which I have touched, which I have loved, should touch another's, and your dear strong fingers clutch his heart as mine in time not far away, if on another's face your sweet hair lay on such a silence as I know, or such great writhing words as uttering overmuch stand helplessly before the spirited bay. If this should be, I say, if this should be you of my heart, send me a little word, that I may go on and take his hand, saying, accept all happiness from me. And then shall I turn and hear one bird sing terribly afar off in the lost lands. So, we come to the judges this year are Jenna Butler, Rob McLennan, and Chimwemwe Undi. Now, they have made an amazing choice, which I fully endorse. And the winner is Bryn Simmons.
what an honor to be here with you all tonight. I never dreamt of standing here, so please allow me a moment to land. As Scott mentioned, I will be reading a poem that he picked from my latest collection, The Work, and it's called Ice Fishing. The last time I was in an airport, I ran from one empty terminal to the next, looking for a time zone with my father still in it. I found his ghost ice fishing in a connector tunnel at YYZ. In a temporary shelter erected to block the wind, he taught me how to cut a hole in ice with an auger, sit on an overturned bucket, and wait. No hook, no bait, and still they leap, gasping, flopping at my feet. Stuffed in my carry-on, I could feed a village with my grief. These days, I don't need a shelter or an opening to talk to him. Simply stand on the ice, let the wind scale my cheeks. Can I say a few words?
I'm supposed to
Oh, hey.
give you this.
Okay, wow. I think I found my new 3-pound weight. Thank you so much. I have a couple of words. It's such an honor to be here. And I'm so grateful to accept this award on behalf of all of the books I have read and responded to and that have shaped who I am as a person and a poet. Books that likely took years of living to write that I devoured in hours. Collectively, we could list 50 or more poets deserving of this honor, some of them in this room. And I hope we will share those names with each other. For poetry is its own ecosystem. We read and respond to each other's work, borrow each other's lines for epigraphs, and share nutrients, much like a forest does underground. The work of poets is often quiet and unnoticed, but like roots, poems offer oxygen, quench thirst, and can anchor us in unsteady times. Someone recently said to me that poets aren't practical people. Most poets, they quickly amended. And if I look back at how I've spent my life, reading, staring out windows, all the good or safe jobs I've left to chase poems, I can see some truth in that statement. That said, being a poet is the best way I have spent my time on this earth. It has taught me how to pay attention, to listen, to feel, to connect to the physical world and the living things I share it with. It has taught me how to say something honest and how to exist in community. On that note, some thank yous. I would like to thank my late father for feeding me books from an early age and for clearing the path for me to be a poet. Tomorrow would have been his 79th birthday. Thanks, Dad. And I would like to thank my love, Adam Hill, for being my first reader and for putting up with how fiercely I have defended my writing time. Thank you to my family, those still here and those beyond. To friends old and new for sharing this journey with me. Thank you to Ria Tregabov, an early mentor who showed me by example how to be a good person and a good poet. Thank you to my publishers, Noelle Allen at Woolsack & Wynne, Silas White at Nightwood Editions, Andrew Steeves and Gary Dunfeld, and soon Keegan Hawthorne at Gasbro Press. I don't know how to thank the judges, Jenna Butler, Chimwemwe Undi, and Rob McLennan, for your faith in my work. But know this, I will continue to read widely and deeply, to champion others, and to write poems that feel necessary and alive, even when I feel like I'm relearning how to write with each new book, how to crack my voice open and be more myself on the page and in the world. Thank you for this honor. My gratitude also to the Writers' Trust, the Albert and Temi Latner Family Foundation, and Scott Griffin. I am flabbergasted that there are people who think poetry is valuable enough to donate money to its continued excellence. Yes, a round of applause for that. I have one more thing to say. And lastly, I would like to thank you, fellow writers, for your poems, your stories, essays, and novels that have sustained me, nourished me, and challenged me to see the world differently. As Jane Goodall said in a documentary released just after her death, you've got to reach the heart. It's no good fighting with the head because they won't listen. To reach the heart, you can usually do that with a story. Thank you for your stories. Thanks, Scott. Thank you.
Congratulations so much, Bren, and thank you so much for those thoughtful remarks. To speak on behalf of the Writers' Trust Board of Directors and present the Engel Findlay Award, please welcome the chair of the board and one of the Trust's most dedicated volunteers, Marla Lieberg.
Bren, those words were so beautiful. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. On behalf of Writers' Trust Board and staff, I want to thank you again for being here this evening in support of Canadian writing and writers. Writers' Trust delivers vital support to authors at every stage of their careers through programs including Rising Stars, Burton House Writers' Residency, and the Woodcock Fund, which has delivered over $2 million to writers facing an emergency. Our suite of literary awards celebrate Canadian writers for their excellence and offer financial support that create time and space to write more books. The $25,000 Engel Findlay Award recognizes a writer of fiction in mid-career. It is an endorsement of an author's craft and encouragement from their peers. As the beneficiaries of the Timothy Findlay Literary Estate, Writers' Trust is grateful to honor authors who, like both Timothy Findlay and Marian Engel, dedicate their careers to building stories in which readers can see themselves reflected. Before I reveal the winner, I would like to express gratitude to our jurors. Daniel Grenier, Shalene Knight, and Jeanette Lyons. Together, this jury read some of the best contemporary Canadian writers of fiction. On behalf of Writers' Trust, I thank them for the thoughtfulness they brought to their reading and their decision. The jurors said, this year's winner's body of work is original, compelling, and emotionally rendered, told in a spare yet poetic style. Her immersive stories of lost innocence, dispossession, and the Vietnamese diaspora in Quebec, and human perseverance are ones that stay with the reader. Please welcome the winner of the 2025 Engel Findlay Award, Kim Thuy.
Sorry. This is a real surprise because I didn't know I was gonna come up, right away. So I still have a mint in my mouth, and yeah. When I got the call from Writers' Trust, I really thought that it was a prank from my agent and friends. So we laughed, and then she said 25,000, and I said, that's really funny, and it doesn't happen, usually for a literary award. So this is still a surprise. Like you, I'm trying to land, but I have not landed. Okay. So sorry for the mint. Maybe you will smell it from me. I've had the opportunity to meet a lot of readers, and there's one question which had never been asked by the people who come to see me. And the question is, why do we read? Because they already read if they come to me, right? But I think this question is probably the first and only question by all of the people who do not care so much about reading. And I don't get the chance, the opportunity to meet them. But if I had the chance to meet them, I think I would probably tell them, I don't know. I don't know why we read. But I probably would tell them that what I've experienced is that when a government wants to have a harder control on a population, the first thing they would do is to ban books, right? So we don't know the impact, but somehow we become very important when we want people to stop thinking. And so what is the answer to it? So I thought maybe because literature transforms history into experience, and literature humanizes history. And I'll give you one example. I didn't know much about our indigenous history when I first arrived here in Canada 47 years ago. And it took me a long time to get to the right reading. But the one that really opened me up and got me interested was a haiku by Hélène Bouchard. And I will read it. Well, I kind of tried to translate it. So Hélène, I'm sorry if I don't do it well, but it goes like this. It says, Innu grandmother visits her granddaughter with a translator. I think, with only a few words, this poem tells the story, or the whole story, a whole history of the different indigenous communities in our country. And I think with only this poem, with those very few words, they give us access to the emotional truths. And I try to say it in plural, and it's very unfortunate that we rarely use the word truth in plural, in French or in English. And I think we should always use, this word in plural so that we understand and hear all of us, all the voices. And I think words, or not only words, but I must say the work of a poet, of a writer, it give us give us the opportunity to see humans behind numbers, behind, history books. We need to see the humans behind. And I think this is why we continue to write, and we need to write. And I think the Writers' Trust is probably, at this time in our history, is probably the strongest form of resistance to protect truths of all of us and to continue to spread truths through our human stories. So thank you so much for continuing this work. Thank you.
Well, now I'm like, I gotta put the mic back up. Well, thank you so much to Kim Thuy for those remarks. I can relate to the feeling of thinking I'm being pranked when something good has happened. I feel honestly still I might be being pranked that I get to work in Canadian literature at all. Even a year and a half into hosting Bookends, it feels a bit prank-like at times. And I appreciate the remarks on the importance of freedom of thought, and I think it's so, so timely. Up next, we present this country's oldest prize for children's literature, established more than 60 years ago, supported by the Metcalf Foundation. To present the Vicki Metcalf Award for Literature for Young People, please welcome Martha Jocelyn.
Good evening. For 62 years, supported by the Metcalf Foundation, the Vicki Metcalf Award has recognized Canadian authors who write for young people. Our readers are clever, engaged, and curious. We believe in their potential to challenge and to care for our world. Part of the Foundation's mission is to enhance the ability of people and organizations to work toward a healthy, just, and creative society for all Canadians. To this end, and in addition to the prize, the Metcalf Foundation now also supports a program called Vicki Metcalf Books to Schools. The Writers' Trust sends books by award winners and Indigenous authors to 250 schools across Canada. Look at that. These schools with majority Indigenous student populations are largely remote and have underfunded libraries. Through this project, books have reached all 13 provinces and territories, from Happy Valley, Goose Bay, Newfoundland and Labrador, to Bella Bella, British Columbia, to Resolute, Nunavut. I'm delighted to announce that the Metcalf Foundation's support for this project and for the award has increased this year. In recognition of their exceptional body of work in children's literature, the winner of the Vicki Metcalf Award is now annually given $40,000. As a writer and a member of the award committee, I can attest that there is nothing so thrilling as giving money to creators and sharing books with new kid readers. The winner is selected annually by a 3-member independent judging panel who understand the specific literary merit of this genre. On behalf of the Writers' Trust, I would like to extend our thanks to the jurors, Peter Ho, Susan Perrin, and Rebecca Thomas. The jurors said that this year's winner invites her young readers to slow down, to listen, to notice. Her stories center family, community, and the natural world, affirming that these ways of knowing and seeing belong at the very heart of Canada's story. Congratulations to the 2025 Vicki Metcalf Award winner, Julie Flett. Julie is not able to join us in Toronto this evening, so please welcome Laurie Martella, co-owner of the Hornblower Group, to accept the award on Julie's behalf.
I also just finished a mint, so I have some lifesavers for anyone. I have a whole big bag of them. I'm really honored to be here with you tonight accepting this award on behalf of Julie Flett. I'm also really honored to be selling Julie's book with Greystone Kids and representing Greystone Kids. So I have her speech here. I'm going to get my reading glasses and dive in. I want to start by thanking David Leonard of Writers Trust for the initial call and for his patience as I gathered myself and tried to find a chair for my wobbly legs. I also want to thank the sponsors, Jameson Stevie, Kirsten Hansen, and the rest of the team at the Metcalf Foundation. This can go down a bit. Thank you, dear prize jurors, Peter Ho, Susan Perrin, and Rebecca Thomas. I'm grateful to you and so tremendously honored. I've had the privilege of working with so many extraordinary publishers, editors, translators, authors, art directors, designers, teachers and librarians, all who have championed children's books and Indigenous stories over the years. I think of authors Richard Van Camp, David Robertson, Monique Gray Smith, Katharina Vermette, Roy and Slavia Miki, and so many others paving the way. Thank you to Arden Ogg, Solomon Ratt, Kevin Brasseau, Dolores Gray Eyes Sand, Dorothy Thunder, and everyone at the Cree Literacy Network. I'm so grateful for our work together. I'll share a few stories about how I found myself here. I worked on my first book in 2004 with Thetis Books, one of the first publishers of Indigenous voices in Canada. I fell in love right then. I fell in love with the work. I fell in love with sitting with the text, putting what I'd heard and saw together, and then watching children pick up the books and see themselves in the work. It was my sister, who had been working with Thetis, who brought me in. I worked with her on my first book. I didn't have a background in illustration, but I'd been drawing all my life. She asked me if I wanted to give it a try. There were not a lot of Indigenous children's books at the time. Not only did I love working on the book, but I loved knowing the impact it had on others. So I thought, yes, this is what I want to do. And that's how I fell in love with bookmaking. Thank you, Leanne. My Swampy, Cree, and Red River Métis grandparents were multilingual. The unspoken decision not to pass the languages down was complex and painful. When my grandfather was in his early to mid-90s and in early stages of Alzheimer's, I called him one night to talk on the phone. During the conversation, I asked him if he would speak to me in Cree. The words hardly made it out of my mouth before he began speaking the language that he was most connected to in his earlier life, the language he had stopped speaking so many years before. I had a sense that this is what he had been waiting for. That stayed with me, and I brought it into my work. I thought maybe this is something I can contribute to the children's book community. We didn't have anything like this when we were kids. For years, my dad was the person I went to when I was working on books. We talked about the land that he had grown up on, his life, and his experiences. These are things he passed on to me, and that inform my work. While my dad was not a Cree speaker, and I was just learning the language myself, it helped me to understand him in a new way. He is so much a part of the work I do. A few years after he passed, I dreamt that he sent hundreds of hummingbirds to me to tell a story, to tell our stories. Thank you, Dad. I was lucky to be raised surrounded by artists and makers of all ages, including my parents, who were artists in their own rights. My mom was a textile artist who had a weaving shop in my early childhood. This is where I developed a love for patterns, dyes, and materials. I wish she could see all of the projects that I had the privilege to work on. She is in them. Thank you, Mom. My sons and nieces are also a part of the work that I do. With their tenderness, humor, and hearts, from early on, my son has always participated in my work. He'd poke his head into my workspace and say something like, "Hey, Mom, that drawing is missing a deer," and I'd notice that, yes, that was indeed the missing character. Since my father passed away, my son is the person that I go to. He has taken on the role. We collaborate a lot. Thank you to my son and to my nieces. As I was developing my illustrations, I found that I always start book projects with landscape. It informs the overall feel of the book. Drawing a landscape is like drawing a poem. The more it went along, the more the landscape informed the story. Having the support of my dear agent, Stephen Malk, and of Greystone Kids, Rob Sanders, Jennifer Gauthier, and Laura Lemuel, who approached me mid-career, changed the trajectory of my work. It's the kind of support that helps you get out of your own way, and so that the work can come through. I remember working on the story Birdsong with them. It was supposed to be a wordless picture book. Halfway through the process, words came to me, and they came in strong. I wrote to my editor, Callie George, and told her about this new situation. There are words that go with my wordless picture book. And that's how that one came to be. I can't tell you how much I appreciate their flexibility and understanding. They've been so encouraging and supportive of Indigenous storytelling in a way that profoundly respects new approaches and worldviews. We recently finished a book about love, a story about being in this life together, what's deep in all of us, what keeps us curious and connected, flowers communicating through molecules and sounds, turtles dancing to magnetic fields, stars and music through math and story, mama bears rescuing their cubs, and shrews navigating their way. I think of Cree author, educator, and astronomer Wilfred Buck, who says of the youth that he works with, their ancestors were philosophers. They're not being told that. And Solomon Ratt of the Cree Literacy Network, whose work breathes life back into the Cree language. I'm so grateful to everyone involved in increasing this awareness and to be a part of it myself. I'm so thankful to all the authors, artists, publishers doing the work. To everyone who came before us, we write and draw and advocate for children, and I couldn't be more grateful. Nanaskimo and Gichi Miigwech.
Congratulations again to Julie Flett, and thank you to Lori Martella for that speech. It's amazing to see so much recognition and acknowledgement through really all the speeches tonight of family members who've supported writers through their careers. It's very touching, so thank you for sharing those stories. Writers' Trust Awards for a writer's career are unique in the ecosystem of literary prizes anywhere in the world. The first 3 awards this evening, and also the one coming up next, all celebrate the writing life across all its stages. We have 4 annual awards that celebrate 4 writers outside the promotional cycle and churn of individual books being published. These awards recognize writers both for what they've written and also anticipate what they're going to write next. To present the Matt Cohen Award in celebration of a writing life, please welcome the prize's supporter and a passionate champion of Canadian writers, Lorraine Gray.
Good evening, everyone. For more than 2 decades, the Matt Cohen Award has been presented to a Canadian writer who lives the writing life. That is, they make their living completely by writing. The $40,000 award is given for literary excellence and carries a financial boost that allows that winner to continue to follow their vocation. The inaugural winner of this award in 2001 was Mavis Gallant, one of the world's greatest short fiction writers. She moved from Paris from Montreal in 1950 to write full-time. Upon receiving the award, she called it one of the greatest honors of my career because it perpetuates the writing life of someone who was, I believe, nothing else than a writer. Matt Cohen lived the writing life too. He was a novelist, essayist, translator, and an activist for the betterment of writers in Canada. Last night I had the privilege of having dinner with the winner of this award, and Patsy Aldana, who helps Writers' Trust honor her late husband Matt's memory by serving on a standing committee of advisors and jurors. The members who join Patsy on that committee are writers, organizers, mentors, trailblazers. On behalf of the Writers' Trust and myself, thank you to Patsy Aldana, Michelle Good, Wayne Grady, and Hal Wake. This committee's work allows the Matt Cohen Award to continue to reward winners like Mavis Gallant, Dennis Lee, Jean Little, Richard Wagamese, many others who have contributed greatly to the Canadian literary canon in many genres. So this year's winner has been called a Canadian Dr. Seuss, with not so many who's, but plenty of mice, monkeys, and sleeping dragons. She has won almost every major award for Canadian children's literature, including the 2000 Vicki Metcalf Award, and was appointed to the Order of Canada in 2023. She's written more than 25 books for children, young adults, and fully grown adults, and is a beloved part of Canada's writing community. Please welcome the winner of the 2025 Matt Cohen Award, Sherry Fitch.
I'm never going to land. Hello? I just called to say, no, sorry. Simply discombobulating, jumbled up and mumbling, topsy-turvy tumbling, tipsy tummy tied in knots. If you were me and I were you for just a day or maybe two, then maybe you and maybe me would see the me that you were too. If you were me right now, you would think perhaps that you are dreaming. You may say I'm a dreamer. I'm not the only one. And if you were me, you would be filled to the brim and overflowing with an overwhelmingly unfathomable, excruciatingly joyful euphoria of mind-blowing and heart-bursting proportions, worrying if this just might be the moment you spontaneously combust. And that's not hyperbole. This is a gift. It is such a gift. It is a gift of kindness and appreciation and significance, great significance to me. But also, it's an honor to the tradition in which I have worked my entire life, whether for children or adults or an essay on the radio. I am a storyteller. And I am so grateful that many of the stories and poems I have written have ended up in books and in homes and in schools and in libraries and around the world, from Bhutan to Nunavut to China to Africa, and in child care centers and in the hearts of so many. I call what I do utterature. I went 7 years to university to study nonsense. Utterature depends upon a human voice and a community of living, breathing listeners to have its life. There's nothing artificial about the storytelling tradition. This also means that I stand here with legions of angels around me, earth angels, and the other kind too. Can't you see them? Don't you have an imagination? William Blake said imagination is divine, and he danced with angels, and I am so on his team. The earth angels that I share this extraordinary honor with are many, so many, in fact, that I realized trying to make this speech that I have to write a book because there's too many stories and too many people to thank. First of all, the earth angels in this book chain of being, what I call the book chain of being, that I want to thank tonight is, first of all, David Leonard, because like you said, what Julie said, I kept him on the phone an hour and a half. Okay, I've been known to talk a lot. But it took me so long to process what he was telling me. And so then he said, and Sherry, there's money too. And I'm like, oh. And I'm like, so I'm thinking when I got the Vicki Metcalf Award, I don't know, but it was maybe 3,000. I don't remember 3,000. So I'm thinking there's money. Oh, maybe it's $5,000. And I said, oh, that's great, Dave. And he said, yeah, $40,000. And I fell off my chair. And I want to thank Lorraine. I had a chance to speak with her last night and to tell her what I can't tell you now of how very much this means to me and to the jurors and to the Writers' Trust. And to Peggy Atwood, who was the person who said this above all else, to refuse to be victim. Unless I can do that, I can do nothing. And she reached right in to that 19-year-old girl who had to refuse to be victim and learn to find her voice. And Matt Cohen. And I got to tell Patsy last night, his words through the leaves of Louise reached right into the bedroom of my 2-year-old son when I was 19. And night after night after night, Albert D. Lyer loved to lie. And it seems impossible that I'm receiving this award in Matt Cohen's name. I share this with so many editors, and I made a point, I had to, and she's here tonight. My editors and publishers, I asked them here because other than my family, they're the people I trusted the most in my life. And Shelley Tanaka and I worked on Toes in My Nose. Yes, this writer's first book was called Toes in My Nose. It was really interesting on airplanes when people asked me what I wrote. Shelley Tanaka. And back then, no faxes, right? No emails. So we had to exchange in the mail. And I remember the first time I got her notes, just weeping because somebody cared about each line, each pause, each word, and didn't even stop to question that I might have spent 45 rewrites on a 10-line poem. Shelley, I owe you so much. And here we are, almost 40 years later. Whitney is here. She's an editor who took the first, and Emily Stewart, who's pregnant with a baby right now, and took the first words with which I had stabbed a page after the death of my son and wrote the book that I never wanted anybody to read. Those editors are people I love and who treated me with respect and with love. Mary Machuzi is an educational publisher. Breathe, Stretch, and Write. I have written and gone into schools. So there's the editors, the publishers, the artists, the designers, the copyright editors, the publicists, the sales reps, the booksellers, the distributors, the readers, the readers, the readers, the readers, the listeners, the librarians, the teachers, the parents, the grandparents, who gather our children together in a circle and offer them the gift of words that I have offered to them this time in this telling in this particular book. But to me, it's still magic, it's mysterious, and it is a manifestation of spirit. Writing to me, creating and telling, has been healing and transformative and a very deep soul journey. Art saves lives. I'm living proof of that. It does. All our lives. So even a poem like "There's a bug in the plug in the tub, it gurgles and swirls and rumbles, it gobbles up toys," has its place. I'll never forget being in that school that day with that poem, where from the back of the room, I heard "plug in the plug," and the whole school turned around and looked. It was a nonverbal child who had talked for the first time. And I'll never forget the time a child came late to school into the reading circle, his eyes swollen and tear-filled, and when he turned his cheek, there was a handprint on the other side of his cheek, and I'm there. There were monkeys in my kitchen, and I'm watching this, and I'm thinking, oh my God, I'm doing nothing. What am I doing? Like, how am I thinking I'm helping children when this is still happening? But you know what happened? By the end of that 45 minutes, his tears had dried, and he was smiling. And why? Not because of me, not maybe even because of my story, because in the moment of the telling of the poem or the story, there is the creation of a safe place. We all need that safe place, that eyeball to eyeball, that cheek to cheek communication that can't happen through a screen or anything else. You know, when I decided to go to university to study, children's literature and English departments wasn't all that popular. It was still called kitty litter by some academics. And Ursula Le Guin, goddess, she said that there was a lot of adult chauvinist piggery in the world, and we children's writers had better get over that, right? And now we have the Booker, who is going to award a Children's Literature Prize. So we've come a long, long way. And it is, I think, for me, the first literature that I came to, why I fell in love with books. So yes, I have been told I have the gift of gab. My mother said I was born talking. My father used to quote Winston Churchill and said, "You, Sherry, are inebriated with the exuberance of your own verbosity." But I'm going to talk a little more because it has been such a privilege and a blessing to have been a storyteller. So I just want you to travel with me for a moment, a little bit longer. So I'm in another town, and I'm in another school, and I'm in another gymnasium, and I'm underneath another basketball net. And there they are, the children, fragrant and rumpled, all Monday morning, crusty-eyed, smelling of soggy mittens and winter boots and buttery popcorn farts. I love them all. I do. All those little nose pickers and spitball throwers and knee huggers. Their sour apple juice breath. Their eager, open, vulnerable little hearts. Even the wounded ones, especially the wounded ones, because there is still hope. Sometimes when I look out into that sea of children like a bowl full of jelly beans, I used to tell them that. My heart bursts, but it's more than love, and I'm using the word love. It's all that pulsating energy, all that potential. They are the receivers of the gift of words that I have been gifted with, and we're all underneath the spell and the spill of those syllables, the joy-dancing, swirling stories, or the soft hush of lullabies. And then guess what? There's the question and answer period. Sherry Fitch, my dog died. And the teacher's going, no, that's not a question. I'm going, it's okay. Tell me the story. Tell me a story with your mouth talking, which is what we used to ask my dad. Tell us a story with your mouth talking. And he would go, I am the daughter of the earth and water and the nursling of the sky. My father gave me the gift of listening to poetry out loud in the air. Sherry Fitch, are you a real woman or a little lady? I don't know. I was like, what do you mean, honey? Are you a real woman or a little lady? I think he meant you're an old kid with a face with an O. I don't know what he meant. Sherry Fitch, how do you read upside down? And when I would hold out the book so that they could do, and I would say, well, I'm telling you a story with my mouth talking. And how do you remember all those words? I don't remember them, I said. I know all my stories by heart. So then there's this, and this is what I want to really give you tonight. Hands go up. Sherry Fitch, how old are you? And the teachers are like, no, don't. And I'm like, it's okay. I'm not a big. I go, it's all right. And this one time I said, so I'm going to be 50 in a little while. Obviously, it's quite a while, long ago now. And I said, it's 50. And they all go, ah. And I go, I know, that's really old, eh? And then because everything's a teachable moment for me, I go, that's like half a century. So yeah, like I'm 50, I'm half a century old. That's really old. The hand goes back up, same boy, and he goes, Sherry Fitch, are you like a legend? And I start that, and I look at the teachers and I go, yeah, I'm a legend in my own rhyme. Ha, ha, ha. And of course it goes right over the head of the kids, and the teachers are laughing, and I go, no, honey, I'm not a legend. And so somebody else asks a question and, goes on, and then this boy, I can still see it going around in his head, and he puts up his hand again and he goes, well then, Sherry Fitch, are you a miracle? And I said, yes, and so are you, 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 and so we all are. And then when somebody said, Sherry Fitch, why are you crying? And I said, these are happy tears because you reminded me what adults forget all the time, that this life is a miracle and that we are miracles. So the other angels I need to acknowledge. One earth angel is my son Jordan, who was a little boy I wrote all those first poems in Toes of My Nose for. It was a mother's love that started that. And his brother, who is no longer in this world, who was the one when Jordan said, you better be careful. He was sticking his feet in his mouth the way babies do. You better be careful, you might stick your toes in your nose. I took those right out of the mouth of babes. And the other person, there's so many I could name, but the other person, of course, I have to name is a deeply dimpled Frenchman named Gilles Plante, who was my husband, and a beautiful man. So this quick story, we're dating about 3 weeks, and we're in a restaurant, and I say something, and he throws back his head. He barely speaks English, I barely speak French. And I say, oh, you think I'm crazy, don't you? And he got really serious, and he said, do you want to know what I think? I think, oh, it's just so lovely. And I said, oh, yeah, I guess so. He got really serious, and he said, I think you really, 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 more than anything, love your children. And I think you really, really love your work. It's not work, it's who you are. I'm sitting there going, well, like he's got me nailed. And then he goes, and I think you're really, really tired. I was so freaking tired. Trying to raise children and go to university and put food on the table and be a writer. And later he would say to me, you know, Sherry, you are a poor poet, and you will always be a poor poet, and I have a pension. But he had me at the first dance, and he was my patron and my saint. I'm going to leave you with this, because a 92-year-old best friend who has held me in friendship the last year and a half since that deeply dimpled Frenchman was gone, Alzheimer's, he never forgot about love. I never forgot that I was given so much love from my editors, my publishers, the teachers, the children. This is about love, okay? I just want to remind you that I think we could change the world one excellent children's book at a time, especially if we read those books to adults. On the road to anywhere in the midst of the galaxy, I met a child with eyes that smiled. Here's what she said to me. Yesterday I saw the moon. It wasn't in the sky. It was in a book. It sounded round, and the gold got in my eye. You see, I learned to read, and now I understand. I never knew it possible to hold the moon in my hands. Thank you, Writers Trust and Lorraine and everyone for helping me hold the moon in my hands.
Well, congratulations, Sherry Fitch. Sherry Fitch, you have the gift of the pen, you have the gift of the gab, you have, I think, really mastered the Maritimer oral storytelling tradition, I gotta say. Like, as a Maritimer, I was like hooting and hollering back there. That is what we are all about. I am so glad we get to celebrate the amazing Maritimer storytelling tradition tonight. Cheers for that. I could listen to her all night, but we do have other things that we need to do. Honest to God. We move on now from celebrating full careers to a prize that supports writers at the outset of their careers. These debut books stunned and delighted, marking the arrival of exciting new queer talent. And so to present the Dane Ogilvy Prize for LGBTQ2S+ emerging writers, please welcome a dear friend to writers who set up an endowment in Dane's name to create this prize, Robin Pacific.
Thank you. It's once again a joy to be here. I do want to just quickly acknowledge Amanda Hopkins and Devin Jackson, because the reason this is all happening so smoothly is because of them. I also want to acknowledge Dawn Orbeck, who's become a true friend and who was the executive director of the Writers' Trust when I approached them with this idea of setting up an award in my friend Dane Ogilvy's name. And we would not be here tonight if it hadn't been for the efforts of Dawn Orbeck, a true friend of this prize. Since its founding almost 20 years ago, the Dane Ogilvy Prize has rewarded over 50 emerging writers who have gone on to publish dozens of books, win awards nationally and internationally, and who represent the creativity, community, and talent of Canada's LGBTQ2S+ writers. I met Dane near the beginning of the AIDS crisis in the early 80s. As more and more of his friends sickened and died, I told him, "You're on the front lines in this war, and I just have an office job." My office job was to support him and my other gay friends. To this end, I went to a funeral for a man named Carl Klink at the Rose R. Morrison Funeral Home, which at that time was having about average of 2-3 funerals a week. Carl was a close friend and past lover of Dane's. I didn't know Carl. I was there simply to give my presence and witness to Dane. Carl had been disowned and ostracized by his family when he came out, and only one family member, one of his brothers, came to the funeral. As the service progressed, more and more family of his chosen family and community stood up to speak about him with love, humor, and admiration. Among other things, Carl was a knitter, and he had made one-of-a-kind sweaters, true works of art, for many of his friends. Suddenly, from the front row, a scream shredded the air, a cry of pure anguish, grief, and palpably remorse. It was Carl's brother, who now, it seemed, recognized who his brother truly was and what he had missed by cutting him out of his life. To this day, I can hear that terrible sound. This man would now have to live the rest of his life with the two saddest words in the English language: too late. But it is not too late for us, those of us who are 2S LGBTQ+ allies. It is not too late for us to say, we see you, we hear you, and we are fighting beside you. As gay and trans rights, women's rights, the rights of people of color, disabled people, are being challenged across this darkening world, we stand with one voice to say a deafening no and a heartful, united yes. 2 years ago, I presented this prize to writer Anuja Varghese, for her debut short story collection, Chrysalis. Since then, Anuja has returned to the prize, now as a supporter. Her donation is a wonderful reminder of the community this prize has built, one rooted in generosity, encouragement, and a shared belief that queer Canadian stories must be celebrated. Thank you, Anuja, for leading by example at a time when voices like these are still at risk of being silenced. This year's jury was composed of writers: Gabrielle Boulian Tremblay, Darren Hagen, and Janika Oza. Together, they chose the 3 debut books published between October 2024 and September 2025 by LGBTQ2S+ authors. The more times I say it, the easier it gets. I thank them for their service on the jury and the incredibly difficult task they faced in selecting this year's finalists and winner. The jury selected a book of poetry, a memoir, and a novel for the shortlist. It's a testament to the uniqueness of this prize that such different genres intersect here, each offering its own kind of heart, resilience, and revelation. I encourage everyone to read these brilliant debut works. As the saying goes, the library is open, or, a great option, your local independent bookstore. The finalists are Tea Gerbeza for How I Bend Into More, Rosa Nozari for All the Parts We Exile, and Ziad Sadi for 3 Parties. Congratulations to all the finalists. And the winner, which is as much a surprise to me as to anyone, the winner of the 2025 Dane Ogilvy Prize for LGBTQ2S+ emerging writers, including a prize of $12,000, is Rosa Nozari for All the Parts We Exile.
Wow, thank you so much.
I'm just gonna keep that.
I was not done crying from the last speech. So this is just very unexpected. My book starts with the words of Gloria Anzaldúa. I will overcome the tradition of silence. This is a book that was written while women in Iran stood up and said, Jin Jian Azadi, women, life, freedom. These were women who overcame their own traditions of silence to say what needed to be said. They did not wait until it was convenient, until it was comfortable, until their jobs were secure, until their books were released, until their publicist agreed, until every member of their family was on board, not even until it was physically safe. And they said it with the urgency in which it needed to be said. They said an end to the regime now, an end to gender apartheid now. I think now more than ever, or maybe now just as much as ever, the courage for us as artists to say what needs to be said with the urgency in which we need to be saying it is incredibly important. And I'm so grateful to be here in the presence of so many other artists who have incredible courage to say what needs to be said right now. I want to say thank you to many people. I want to say thank you to Amanda Betts at Knopf. Thank you to Rachel Litovsky at Transatlantic. Thank you to the whole Knopf team. Thank you to Robin Pacific. I'm so honored. I'm so honored. Thank you to Anuja Varghese. Thank you. Thank you to the Writers' Trust. Thank you to my mother, who so vulnerably was willing to let me write her story. And to my sisters, who let me tell their stories, and to my partner for putting up with me. Thank you to everyone on the jury, Gabrielle Boulian Tremblay, Darren Hagen, Janiko Oza. Thank you so much. I'm exceptionally honored. I'm still shocked. I don't know what I'm saying right now. And thank you to every artist in this room who has the courage to say what needs to be said with the urgency in which it needs to be said, which is free Iran, free Palestine, free Turtle Island, free Congo, free Sudan, free us from settler colonialism, from corporate greed, from oppressive regimes, free us. Thank you. I'm honored. I'm so sorry. And just to deeply honor the life of Dean Ogilvy, just to deeply honor that life, which I just wanted to make sure I named that. Thank you. Thank you.
Congratulations again, Rosa, and thank you so much for those very thoughtful remarks and for, again, saying what needs to be said. The Writers' Trust would like to take a moment to honor the passing and the legacy of the Honorable Hilary M. Weston. She lived a life of service, donating to countless causes with real care for the community, and she was a passionate supporter of nonfiction literature and of the Writers' Trust. I'll invite you now to please draw your attention to the screen.
It's always a privilege to celebrate the work of Canada's finest writers of real stories through this prize, and to help these exemplary works of nonfiction find readers in Canada and beyond.
Over the past 15 years, Mrs. Weston supported Canadian writers both here and abroad, and it has been an incredibly impactful legacy.
It's hard to think of anyone who has done more to support nonfiction in Canada and internationally than Mrs. Weston. The establishment of the Hilary Weston Writers' Trust Prize for Nonfiction was a game changer for the genre in Canada.
The winner of the prize will receive Canada's largest literary award for nonfiction.
Well, I think before I became involved, there was an impression that non-fiction was the sort of poor sister of fiction. It's no longer the biography. They're wonderful stories within themselves.
Non-fiction can be as supple as water and as sharp as obsidian. Non-fiction possesses plot, character, dialogue, tempo, suspense, just as the novel does. It can span the vastness of geological deep time.
She believed that nonfiction literature is a catalyst for progress that gives us the tools to solve the problems of today and shape a more resilient tomorrow.
Some of these works of nonfiction hold a mirror up to our lives and ask hard questions. Some drill deeply into our political landscape, and others take us on journeys to faraway lands.
It is an extraordinary honor, this. And there's a generosity to this prize. It's a holistic vision.
Thank you, Hilary Weston, for your generosity.
I've come to know the invaluable work the Weston family does for the literary community in this country.
And of course, the Hilary and Galen Weston Foundation as a whole above all.
I want to thank all those who donate and give in so many ways to enable the work that the Writers' Trust does.
Her legacy lives on in the books that she rewarded, the voices that she championed, and the readers inspired to learn more about our world.
Though each book is different, all of the authors share exceptional literary talent and have enriched our lives through their research and their discovery.
Before we present the award named for Mrs. Weston and supported by the Hillary and Galen Weston Foundation, we'd like to spotlight the books nominated for the Hillary Weston Writers' Trust Prize. Enjoy.
The moral component of history, the most necessary component, is simply a single question asked over and over again. When it mattered, who sided with justice and who sided with power? What makes moments such as this one so dangerous, so clarifying, is that one way or another, everyone is forced to answer.
What I love about prayer is the ritual, the covering of the eyes with the right hand, the bowing, the kneeling. It means more than the words themselves. The singing is more important than what is sung. To weather the world as it comes, we need an act of reimagining, fist raised and saying hallelujah. Community as a verb, weathering as its gerund. Transformation the way water turns to snow.
When sleep finally overtook me, I would dream of the open sky folding in on itself, children roaming through curtains of monsoon rain, my mother's slight, electric figure standing in line for rations, me, a lightning rod, jolting awake. With the glare of the city sneaking in through cracks in the blinds, I sometimes couldn't tell if I'd made up the past, if the refugee camp in Thailand was ever real.
This morning, at the end of this world, I ask myself what I would give up to bring into being a different world, to change the air, to change everything. I theoretically sort through precious things to see which ideas are brick walls and which are doorways. I think of the snapping turtle's shell design, and I think about all the maps I'm missing, even though they are right in front of me. The maps all around us, the ones on the backs of turtles.
My sister is the stark white space around our cluttered, battered, inserted, deleted, ridiculous prose, our messy ink, fouling octopi trapped in barrels on boat decks, gulls shrieking, flailing, dark words and murderous sentences. And she says infinitely more than we do. In that silence, was she holding on to something tightly with every muscle, every bit of energy, her soul, herself, tethering?
To present the Hillary Weston Writers' Trust Prize for Nonfiction, please welcome the Executive Director of the Hillary and Galen Weston Foundation, Amy Buskirk.
Good evening. Tonight, I have the honor of revealing the winner of the Hillary Weston Writers' Trust Prize for Nonfiction. The prize awards $75,000 to the winner, making it the most significant award in Canadian nonfiction literature. This prize and the Hillary and Galen Weston Foundation embody our founder's deep commitment to community and country. As you saw in the video, Mrs. Weston recognized the tremendous power of nonfiction to inform and enrich our lives. And the Foundation's directors and staff are pleased to uphold her legacy and her passion for literature. Our partnership with Writers' Trust extends beyond this one prize. With its international counterpart, the Weston International Award, we're proud to champion nonfiction writers here at home and abroad. Nonfiction writers recognized for the Weston Prizes explore truth, they question assumptions, and help us see the world more clearly. The jury who selected this year's Hillary Weston Prize finalists described them as an act of public service, universal, profound, transformative, and virtuosic. Those jurors were Matthew R. Morris, Lori Nielsen Glenn, and Negan Sinclair. They read 101 books of Canadian nonfiction this year, including memoir, biography, essays, history, reportage, and literary criticism. It's clear that Canadians have a lot of things to say. We're grateful to the jurors, nonfiction writers themselves. They engage so thoughtfully and passionately with the work of their colleagues for the majority of this year, and we thank them. Once again, the finalists are Omar Elikad, for One Day, Everyone Will Have Always Been Against This. Tessa McWatt for The Snag. Vin Nguyen for The Migrant Rain Falls in Reverse. Leanne Bida Samasa Simpson for Theory of Water. And finally, Miriam Taves for A Truth That Is Not Peace. Congratulations again to all the nominated authors. And I get the pleasure of opening up this envelope and announcing that the winner of the 2025 Hillary Weston Writers' Trust Prize for Nonfiction is Deanne Seta Simpson. Congratulations.
Ani Kinuaya, I had my gracious loser face already. I practiced. It's a strange moment to win a book prize. Here on the edge of climate collapse, in the midst of an accelerated genocide in Gaza, Palestine,
and in genocides in Congo and the Sudan. Beside a white supremacist regime in the US disappearing people. In the midst of white supremacists training to do the same thing in our gyms and in our parks. Each of the books on this list meets our shared present moment, and now we must center with these threads of grief, anger, and moments of joy to transform them into communal actions and to remake our worlds through our artistic practice and through our collective practices of care. I'm very grateful to the Indigenous storytellers and writers who have come before me, the ones who told stories quietly and constantly to strengthen our hearts and minds and connections, who did not put their name on a book or seek to win a prize, but who aimed to build the world. I'm very grateful for the Indigenous women that came before me, that built the writing community that surrounds me. These are the ones that make me and my work possible. I'm filled with gratitude for the Black artists, writers, intellectuals, and organizers that have rebelled, refused, reworld, and have therefore made my work possible. I'm grateful to my parents, Diane and Barry Simpson, who fostered a love of reading and writing and skiing. Miigwech to Doug Williams-Bond and his family for a lifetime of love. I'm grateful for Jackie Kaiser for seeing my work and for guiding it to all of you. To Lynn Henry, who has transformed for me what an editor can and should do, and who has the ability to deliver editorial feedback with the utmost kindness and generosity. To Dion Brand and your body of work, your alchemy, your influence, and for sharing your brilliant mind with me, Miigwech. Miigwech to the jury, to the Writers' Trust, to the Hillary and Galen Weston Foundation, to my partner, Steve, and finally my children, Nishna and Minowe, for their patience. Because as we all know, living with a writer can be a fraught and wild experience. Miigwech.
Congratulations again to Leanne Badasmose Simpson and Miigwech for those remarks. So thoughtful, much to ponder. We've arrived now at the final award of the evening, the Atwood Gibson Writers' Trust Fiction Prize, supported by the Balsillie Family Foundation. And once again, we'd like to draw you into the worlds of the nominated books through a video. So please do draw your attention to the screen.
In the middle of the night, in the dense black of those years before Vancouver's power grid gave off its steady orange glow, and when the stars still curled like 1,000 set cork lines from horizon to horizon, to suddenly see the massive black hull of a freighter, higher than a house, sharp as an orca's fin, bearing down on you was enough to rattle the nerves of even the most seasoned fisherman.
They lie flat and motionless ahead, the rest of Dana's cards, strung out in a long trail that suggests they weren't scattered all at once, but were set down deliberately, one by one. The sun has just begun to edge over the trees, and it makes the cards flash like knives. They're spaced so evenly that if you were quick enough and light enough, you might hop from one to the other all the way across the lake. An invitation or a warning. It's impossible to tell.
There's a permanence in the stark cream of unburied human bones in the wilderness. The promise of those bones, a haunting that demands an audience, is that they tell their own stories. These bones are proof of our existence. Learn to read the text of the landscape. After all, unburied human bones have nothing to say if you cannot see the colors in the air. Our bones were not there before we walked this land.
The setting sun saturated everything in comic book colors. Bubblegum pink clouds, yellow apartment buildings. To his right, there was an orange rectangle of land with a tree that cast an outlandishly long, tar-black shadow shaped like an eagle's taloned foot. The road on which the trailer was parked led down the hill to where a river gleamed like a red-hot blade forged straight from a fire. Unsettling, the absence of people, as if everyone had gone into hiding before the coming dark.
The executive assistants are a troupe of beautiful, thin young women. Every one of them. That's not unique to our agency. It's consistent across the industry. When we think of all the advancements women have made, it's shocking to me that the senior men can't imagine anyone other than a tight-butted girl scheduling their appointments. I'm not saying they're not good at their jobs, but give a fat dad a chance.
Wonderful. To present the Atwood Gibson Writers' Trust Fiction Prize, please welcome recent winner of that prize, David Cheriandy.
Good evening, everyone. You are all beautiful tonight, writers. Doesn't mean you're not beautiful on other nights. Maybe not when editing. What an honor and joy it is to announce the winner of this year's prize. The Atwood Gibson Prize is, of course, named for two Writers' Trust co-founders, Margaret Atwood and Graham Gibson. The prize is generously sponsored by the Basile Family Foundation. They support a platform for our country's dedicated authors of fiction and for those writings that are insistently and necessarily of the imagination. The five authors celebrated today engage the beauty, horror, and comedy of this world, while also knowing that meaning often hides in plain sight, in great blue herons and unsulfured apricots, in bundles of firewood and in hundreds of needy snails. And yes, even in blonde sausage dogs. Our fiction finalists remind us of our humanity, which is to say, our vulnerability in inseparable relations, our capacity for invention, our yearning for something more. These finalists give us narratives that quicken, give us sentences that stop breath. A jury composed of writers selected this year's finalists: Gary Barwin, for sure, Ali Bryan, and Jasmine Seeley. They spent 6 months poring over 120 novels and short story collections to select 5 great books, an achievement in itself. On behalf of the Writers' Trust, we thank Gary, Ali, and Jasmine for their diligence, expert judgment, and generosity to both writers and readers. Please read these 5 books. Please read more Canadian and Indigenous literature. Once again, the 5 Atwood Gibson Prize finalists are Tim Bowling for Graveyard Shift at the Lemonade Stand. Robert McGill for Simple Creatures. Otonia Okot Bitek for We the Kindling. Maria Reva for Endling. And Aurora Stewart de Peña for Julius Julius. And now, the winner of the 2025 Atwood Gibson Writers' Trust Fiction Prize is Maria Reva for Endling.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Okay, I have a phone and a napkin, and here we go. Wow. Okay, there's a lot of you. I'm going to read an email that I drafted to my editor, Lynn Henry, today at Knopf, and to my editor, Lee Boudreau at Doubleday, and Sarah Savitt in the UK, and of course to my wonderful agent, Amelia Atlas. Thank you for your well wishes about tonight's ceremony. I've so appreciated your support and passion, but I really, really don't think I'm going to win this award. The Writers' Trust wants the finalists to write a hypothetical acceptance speech, and I can't even do that. As we all know, Endling has a really lovely track record. It's a book that gets nominated, but not one that wins prizes, which is absolutely lovely, and I am happy as a clam. Endling just does not inspire consensus, and it's not an easy book to love. Remember that Guardian reviewer, Marcel Theroux, who said, I'm sorry. Oh, okay. Okay, who said that reading this book was like going to the theater and halfway through the play, someone bursts on stage to announce that the theater is on fire, but the audience is welcome to stay and watch. And that was coming from a reader who actually enjoyed the book. Endling asks how we can write fiction when its real-life setting, not just Ukraine, but the many stages of our shared world are burning. There is no consensus on how to reflect our reality in art, and there never will be. Maybe that's the point. My dear agent and my dear editors, the fact that you took a chance on a book about a snail with a genetic mutation, about a troupe of activists masquerading as brides, about a truck full of kidnapped bachelors, about the war, about an author who rips the book up halfway through and reserves the right to make a joke or two along the way. That in itself is the prize. So again, thank you for your well wishes. When the book does not win consensus tonight, I'll just have to take that as a compliment. Yours, Maria. So then I had a drink in the reception, and then I thought, oh no, well, if I do win, I don't want to be here like a fool without anything to say, right? So I have a napkin that I wrote on, and okay. So I would love to thank the jury, of course, for taking a chance on this book and reaching some sort of consensus. Like, seriously, thank you. To the Writers' Trust, to the Balsillie Family Foundation for funding this, and to the Writers' Trust as a very godparent to me throughout my career, actually. They gave me $10,000 as part of their emerging prize, the Bronwyn Wallace Prize, and that was when I was moving to Canada back from the States, and that gave me the confidence to set out and be a full-time writer. That was one of the pieces that fell into place and let that happen. And then during the pandemic, the Writers' Trust had an emergency fund for writers, and I benefited from that too, so thank you. So now I'll get to write another book. And lastly, of course, I'd like to thank my family, both here in Canada and abroad, in Ukraine and outside of Ukraine, those who fled and those who stayed. And the family member who has stayed, of course, is my grandfather. And he's one of the main characters in the book, and he still doesn't know he's in the book. And I'd like to thank him, of course, and I haven't seen him in a while, and I haven't been able to come to him, of course. He's in the south of Ukraine, but maybe one day I will when this is over, and if he makes it out, and I'll come to him and I say, look, I wrote a book, and you're in it. So thank you so much.
Maria, thank you so much for those remarks. So funny, so thoughtful. I thought the book was really good. Like, I don't know what they're talking about in The Guardian. Come on now. Congratulations again to everyone who's been honored this evening. What a celebration. So many fantastic books honored, so many fantastic authors. I feel so full and so excited to read, titles that I haven't had the chance to read. I'm like, I need to go get that right now. Congratulations again. I'd like to invite the winners and presenters to the stage for a photograph. To our audience, thank you so much for coming. If you're here in person, if you're tuning into the live stream, thank you as well. We respect that and acknowledge that. Please visit writerstrust.com to learn more about this organization's work year-round. As you've heard throughout the night, this is an organization that supports writers throughout their careers, emerging, long time. It's so important that we continue supporting these voices. And join us outside to toast the writers before you go. Thank you so much. Good night. What a blessing to have been able to host this.